Welcome. Let me have you take this moment to introduce the program to you and also let you know that this is the first time I have recorded a course like this. So if it doesn't sound exactly smooth, you can understand. This is a course on American history. It's the second course in a series of 3 courses offered by state universities in the state of Florida. The topics that we'll cover in this course will be from approximately 1861 to 2010. I say approximately because in the book it says 1865, but I don't think you could really grasp American history unless you go back to the Civil War and understand. We'll briefly discuss the reasons for the Civil War. It wasn't only about slavery. In fact, it wasn't really about slavery in the beginning at all. You might benefit a lot by watching a movie such as Lincoln, but make sure you go to someplace in Google and find out what the movie is about, because it could be confusing. The Civil War itself, there will be a whole lecture. Then after the Civil War, Reconstruction, how did they put Humpty Dumpty back together again? And after that, in the 1870s and the 1880s and 1890s, the great migration to the West, expansion to the West, the fate of the American Indians. I put on this slide, Manifest Destiny, that the white Anglo-Saxons believed that they had a mission from God to settle the uncivilized Western North American continent. The Canadians did the same thing. In the late 1880s and the 1890s, what's called the Gilded Age, which will take some explanation. Big explanation on the rise of industrialization and urbanization in the United States, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then by the end of the century, of the 19th century, there will be some discussion about progressivism. And as we talk about progressivism, I want you to think about some of the things that are happening in South America now, where people are beginning to demand significant social, economic, and political change in response to what the same thing happened in North America back in the 100, 120, 130 years ago, that people believed that things were not fair. We'll get into Rockefellers and Vanderbilts and monopolies and antitrust. And then imperialism, the Spanish-American War in 1896, the anti-expansion or anti-imperialism of many Americans, but then along comes a guy named Teddy Roosevelt who has great different feelings about it. Then how the United States, Woodrow Wilson becomes president, and then how the United States gets into World War I, and when it comes out of World War I, how the United States becomes the most powerful economic and industrial country in the world. Then we'll get into the 1920s, what they call the Roaring Twenties, because on the surface seems like everyone was having a lot of fun, but in reality they weren't. And the results of World War I, the settlements or non-settlements, as if you want to think of it that way, of World War I lead to Great Depression in the 1930s, and then we'll talk about Franklin Roosevelt, his swing to the left to resolve or solve the many, many, many problems in the American economy, American society in the 1930s, Great Depression, and then also understanding the significance of American isolationism in the 1930s during the rise of the dictators in Germany and Germany and Italy and Soviet Union, Spain. Then there will be a lot of discussion about World War II, because I personally believe that World War II is what set the stage for the last 60 some years of our American history. We're all a result of World War II, including myself doing this recording on August 11th, my 68th birthday, born just 2 days after Nagasaki. After World War II, there'll be a great discussion on Cold War. Did the Cold War start during, right after, or long before World War II? My personal opinion is that it started a long time before. It was Cold War is a clash between capitalist and socialist ideologies. Then after that, we'll get into the 1950s, the era of abundance, and continue along at the same time discussing beginnings of the major arms races, the space race, beginning with Sputnik, and then in the 1960s, which most of my students here in Ecuador find most interesting because it's about, I graduated from high school in 1964, so it's a personal story. I went in the Navy in 1965, so it is a personal story. The Vietnam War itself, 1945 to 1975, you could say American involvement from 65 to 75. After that, what I'd like to discuss a lot is about the ongoing, constant, always will be, swing between liberals, the Democrats, and the conservatives, the Republicans. So we go from Franklin Roosevelt, and we go to Eisenhower, conservative, then we go back to Kennedy's and Johnson's are liberals. And I think that's very important to understand, given the significance or the continuity of this constant political swing back and forth. By the end of the 1980s, we have the end of the Cold War. Then we have the election of Bill Clinton, another liberal Democrat. And then we'll top it off with a discussion. We may even have an online forum discussion with all the students about Pax Americana and pop culture and the United States as a major world, or the uni-power of the world. The objectives of this course, I've been teaching this course for an awful long time. This is the first time I've done it in this blended format. My usual things are I use a online program called Moodle, which you will be using. But it's to understand the roots and development of the modern United States of America. Many of you will have studied in the States or will be studying in the States. You're all in a U.S. college. I've been teaching this course in Guayaquil, Ecuador, to students who 98% finished their associate degrees here in Guayaquil since 1985, and they transferred to colleges and universities throughout the United States. And I put a lot of emphasis on this because you really need to understand, no matter what your major, you need to understand where you're going. And I know many of you, I'm sure many of you have been to the States. 1 week, 2 weeks of shopping, and everybody knows Miami, South Miami, Broward County, Aventura, Sawgrass Mill, but that's not the United States. It's much, much, much more than that. The goal is also to increase your ability to analyze and evaluate the past, because if you don't understand what's happened in the past, you don't really understand what you're seeing in the present. And you can't think about what could be, what might be. The Americans have an expression, the what if, I guess you could call it a what if game. You can't play what if you don't know what pieces to put into the game. And then the goal of the course is to improve your student skills, reading, research, critical thinking, writing academic papers. My opinion, my experience is one of the most important things you can walk away with is the ability to write an academic paper in MLA, APA. Someday some of you will go higher and it'll be other things. But you must know how to put this together and put it together now. There's too much copy paste, copy memorize. That is not academic writing. Academic writing is what you think backed up by what you can research and what you can find to support what you think. And we'll go into this a lot during the semester. My name, I should have said this in the beginning, is Dr. Jim Whitman. I hold a bachelor's degree in political science and history. A couple years later, I hold a master's degree in finance, master in business administration. And then somewhat later, I earned a doctor's degree in education, specializing in distance education and online learning and technology. And just in the past year, I finished a graduate certificate in American history, which was one half of a master's degree, which at my age, I don't really think I need to finish it. One more paper to write is, it's more fun to be reading and teaching than it is to write papers. I've been here, I retired from the U.S. Air Force. You can read my bio on the Moodle. I've been teaching here in Guayaquil for 25 years. I also teach Western Civ, political science courses, philosophy, world religion. I've taught many other courses, but I really concentrate on history and sometimes political science, and I mentor courses in philosophy and world religion because we don't have people here in Ecuador that can teach these courses according to the U.S. requirements, so we offer the students here a face-to-face mentor, advisor, whatever you want to call it. I'm the president and the academic dean of Broward College I've been teaching here since January of 1990, and I've been the president of the program for the last 15 years. This is going to be a blended course. It's called online and face-to-face. The first 12 weeks of the course will be fully online. You'll be using a Moodle learning management system. You will find complete instructions on how to get into the program. I use Moodle. Some of you probably use things like Blackboard, or Broward has a Desire to Learn program. I have been using Moodle for 12, 14 years, and it's user-friendly for teachers and students. And it's easy to put things up. It's easier for you to use it. So that's what we're going to do this semester. As things stand today, August 11th, and the last 2 weeks of this semester in November, I will go to Lima, and I am already started preparing a series of capstone lectures, which we will go back and review the whole semester and give you a chance to interact and put your input and your questions, and you're welcome to all the questions you want all throughout the semester, as a matter of fact. I love somebody that's interested enough to ask questions, so feel free. I will prepare PowerPoint slides that will on each one of the topics. They will probably be anywhere between 5 minutes and maybe 30 minutes. It depends on the topic and the interest, if I have questions in advance, that kind of thing. But it'll be ready for you by the Monday of every week of this semester. I will provide other multimedia support, which is entirely up to you. PowerPoint slides I'll put them on the Moodle. Many YouTube documentaries. One of my hobbies is I've been a book collector all my life, and in the last 10 years been a YouTube documentary collector with 2 terabyte hard disks full of everything you can imagine. And like I said in the thing here, it's up to you. You can take advantage of it. Since you're all going to write a paper, you might find that using the videos, since most people don't like to sit and read history books, you can find significant support for your thoughts on any particular paper that you're going to write. So I would encourage using documentaries, and you can figure out very easily how to cite these resources, the MLA style, in your paper. And you will find extensive support documents. I put a lot of content on the Moodle just to make it easier for you, so you don't have to spend a lot of time going around when I've already done it to find things. The paper. This is extremely important, so please pay attention. This is not high school. This is college. Your academic skills, number one, is how to write a paper. Honestly, after you write a few of them, I can't say it's easy because it always requires lots of research. And Annalise has informed me that you already know how to use the online Broward library, which I would suggest you use almost exclusively. You've probably already been instructed on you can't use .coms and you have to be careful with everything else. Wikipedia is absolutely not an academic resource, which you probably know already. And there's extensive assistance on the Broward webpage. We're in the process right now of major efforts to teach our kids, not teach, but renew their enthusiasm in using the Broward Library. I don't have to get into lectures about plagiarism. Just don't do it. It'll cause you great grief. I've had students go to the States, plagiarize, and come home in 3 weeks. Not often, but once in a while it happens. You get kicked out of school for it. Research paper, I wrote here 8 to 12 pages. That's just it's rough because when I write a paper, and I've written a lot of them, I pick a topic that'll give me plenty. I want to focus, but I still want to have plenty of room for a lot of personal opinion, and then you have to develop a personal opinion. So I put 8 to 12 pages, but it's not. I don't count the pages and I don't count the words. I want to know what you think. Now, in 8 to 12 pages, I would imagine you would probably get about, I don't know, 2,500 words or something. Someday you're going to sit and laugh that wasn't very much. That's the way college goes. I'll repeat MLA style only. If you go to the Purdue OWL page, everything you need to know about MLA is right there in front of you. I strongly suggest don't make it the topic too big. Focus. Don't try to write a first or second year college paper about the Cold War. Focus on one thing. Not the space race. That's part of the Cold War, but it's still too big. So try it, and we'll go back and forth on this, and we can discuss it. I'm considering setting aside a synchronous period during with students require it or ask for it, that we can actually get together online and we can have an open forum to discuss these kind of things. But we'll discuss more about focusing. The paper will be 25% of your grade. We'll discuss grading in a second. My strongest suggestion is this: do not procrastinate. I have seen it over and over and over and over. The worst papers are the latest prepared, least prepared, last 2 days before the paper's due. My habit from many years is I try to hand in everything at least a week or two in advance. In a 15-week semester, you should have your paper in by the 13th week. Done. That I have found a lot of teachers, including myself, if I get an early paper, I'm influenced in a very positive way. And also that I got time, if I look at a paper and I can think of ways the student can improve it, I'll send it back and say, hey, fix this up. We can make it better. I'm always looking for ways to make it better. And it improves your grade, too. If you hand it in 20 minutes before the deadline, well, that's what deadline means. Deadlines are sacrosanct. That means they're sacred. It won't change it. There's a policy. You can read the policy. If you miss the deadline, you're automatically less 10%. If you miss the deadline by 24 hours, you're down 20%, and so on. So, and then after 3 days, you got an F. And I don't take appeals. Best policy: everything that I require, turn it in 24 hours in advance. Grading, your final average is simply an accumulation of points. I haven't yet figured out exactly how I'm going to award points, but there may be. I'm going to watch and see what kind of response I get. If I get a sense that students are not bothering to read, there will there will be quizzes in each week about the topics that you're supposed to have read. The quizzes might be online. Sometimes they are. I'm considering setting up forums, which I'll explain later in a document and with another slideshow too, because it's easier.